Today, we're going to talk about how the carnivore diet and fasting can create muscle wasting, make you look shriveled up. Welcome everyone to my very humble channel. Now let's get on into it. Gluconeogenesis. I talk about this word all the time, and it means, well, gluco means glucose, blood sugar, neo means new, and genesis means to create. So you are creating new blood sugar. And this can be an amazing thing. This can be a frightening chain reaction to doing things the wrong way. Gluconeogenesis. Pretty friggin' interesting concept. It's your body's ability to make blood sugar. Now, this can be through fat, or this can be through muscle, or this can be through glycerol, this can be through lactate, pyruvate, but let's talk about fat versus muscle. It would be amazing if we could go through gluconeogenesis to raise our blood sugar and just burn fat. But unfortunately, people develop metabolic derangement, metabolic inflexibility, and their fat cells get super duper, and I mean tritunguously, inefficient. That is why a lot of you guys will find the carnivore diet and think it's a weight loss diet, and it's not. This is a diet to get down inflammation, not a diet for weight loss. And people are doing a keto diet for weight loss, and it's also not a weight loss diet. This is a diet to get your body in balance, to a homeostatic balance. Gluconeogenesis. This can be good and bad. If you are breaking down the body to create blood sugar, how is that done? I mean, your body's not breaking down fat that easily. The fat cells become inefficient. So that leaves amino acids, which are much easier to break down and convert into glucose than fat. This can happen with people who are active, who are healthy, who are not toxic with heavy metals and forever chemicals stuffed in their body, who can poop, who can sleep, who follow a circadian rhythm. But for the rest of us, it's a lot more difficult to just create new blood sugar through gluconeogenesis via the fat cells and just do some exercising and you're lean as frack. Doesn't work that way. Not to confuse you guys, but we actually need blood sugar. I mean, you can't have a blood sugar of 0 or you would not be alive. You cannot have a blood sugar of 800 or you're going to be not around very much longer. Somewhere not in the middle, in the lower half of middle. But we need enough sugar for our red blood cells. For example, the thyroid needs glucose. When people do ketogenic and carnivore diets, that's the biggest fear, is that you're using ketones and all of a sudden you don't have enough glucose for the thyroid or for your red blood cells. But that, my people, is not true, because our body is always making sugar through gluconeogenesis. You don't have to eat a drop of carbs or sugar to have blood sugar. Your body's always going to make it in the body factory. And what a factory it is. Our bodies are so freaking smart. They know how to break down things to build up things, right? To give you energy. This is designed really, if you're running from a lion or if you almost get hit by a car and you try to jump out of the way and you need energy really fast, the body will go gluconeogenesis. And then you can run faster. Your body's breaking down amino acids, more so, to fuel the fledgling brain and to give you energy to jump over a fence or get away from danger. The problem is when you're in this crisis state all the time. If you're in a fight or flight mode all the time, you see it on people. They look wrecked. They look bloated, inflamed, they can't sleep. Especially the people who are fasting all the time. Don't even get me started. They start to develop crepey skin, wrinkly, dark circles under the eyes. but they weigh less on a scale. And nobody tells you about that, do they? The whole gluconeogenesis friggin' catastrophe when you're going down the cortisol pathway too much. We need blood sugar, like I said, but our bodies know how to create it. It's when you're in a chronic state of stress. That can be emotional. It can be from over-exercising. It can be from not sleeping. It can be from pesticides and chemicals and dyes and just anything that is toxic becomes an overload. And the body does not recognize that as like, dyes in the clothing. It recognizes it as running from a lion. It's stress. Stress means cortisol pathway, and this helps your body to survive in an emergency. But why are we in an emergency 50,000 times a day? That's the reason why your body starts to fall apart and your thyroid starts to tank and your sex hormones start to tank and your adrenal function is out of whack and all of a sudden DHEA tanks and pregnenolone begins to tank and there's just too much cortisol in the body to make us survive, but there's so much, then things tank. And then you guys think you're going to lose weight? It doesn't work that way. If you do a carnivore diet and you're eating all that protein, you're not going to get into ketosis. That excess protein is going to get converted back into glucose, but you're not going to store that as energy in the muscle because that's not enough energy for glycogen. You have liver glycogen and you have available blood sugar, but you're not going to get energy from the gas tank. Then the body's like, well, we're going to have to go into gluconeogenesis and try to raise blood sugar even more. And if you're chronically doing that, you start to eat yourself, not the fat. The body's going to burn that last. If you're starving to death, it's going to get rid of the part of the body that makes you starve faster, which is muscle. Muscle is too metabolically active, and fat is a blob. It just sits there. So we burn that second, and we burn first our muscle. And that is why you see long-distance runners. Well, if you take sprinters that sprint up to 400 meters, they're muscular because before the body goes into the stress mode, you stop running. But with long distance runners, you keep going and going and going. The body's like eating itself. And that is why you see people who are fasting, who lose weight on the scale. They lose muscle. They lose water. They look gaunt. They don't look healthy. They look skinny fat. And women typically get away with this nonsense because they just want to be thin. And men don't judge them for being thin. They just want to be thin. They don't think about being healthy. But if a man goes into gluconeogenesis all the time, going down that cortisol pathway, and he loses a lot of muscle, it is a disaster. And for me, it doesn't matter if it's male or female. Both of them take an endocrine or metabolic hit, and now they have adrenal fatigue. Now their hair starts falling out, men and women. Now their libido drops and they can't build muscle because somebody told them to do fasting and all these stupid schedules that are, and one meal a day, even more stupid. And nobody's telling them the chain reaction of being in a chronic cortisol state down the cortisol pathway, which is considered the stress pathway. And they'll talk about autophagy, which they can't measure, and accessing that brown fat, but they just look skinny fat, gaunt, electrolyte depleted, because a lot of people who fast are not getting enough of the mineral balance to keep their cells hydrated and communicating with each other. No one's talking about this stuff. They just throw out stupid words like Santa Claus, tooth fairy words like autophagy, or insulin sensitivity because you're fasting or eating carnivore. Absolute garbage. People aren't talking about eating too much protein on carnivore and how they're dehydrated, how their liver function goes down, and if their kidney function goes down. If their liver function's already down, then that compromises everything. Liver, kidney, gallbladder, pancreas. Boom, boom, boom. So we got to be careful for gluconeogenesis in the context of fasting, in the context of not sleeping well, in the context of stress, anxiety, nervous all the time, over exercising at night, high blood sugar from stress. We have to think about hypoglycemic people whose blood sugar's up, and when it crashes, the body's like, gluconeogenesis, we got to stabilize that blood sugar. And then you're not getting into ketosis, and that's why when you use a glucometer or a keto or a carnivore, can I talk? This is why when you're using a glucometer on keto or carnivore diets, you see people struggling with their energy. And every time you're super hungry or every time your energy drops, your body has to go to the body factory, eat itself to feed the fledgling brain, which then creates an inflammatory reaction to the body. Be very, very careful. A lot of people doing carnivore, they just keep hearing it's the miracle diet. It's not. You can only do it for the short term because over time you've got to balance all these things. The blood sugar goes berserko. Too much protein, not enough fat, can't get into ketosis. Then people are trying to do a higher fat carnivore diet, but nobody ever talks about the amount of fat to the individual and the type of fat. Or measuring your blood sugar and your ketones. Because if your blood sugar's up, those ketones are not viable. And then you're going into the body factory, gluconeogenesis, to stabilize your blood sugar, but really you're making too much. Blood sugar goes up. And this is the reason why a lot of people experience physiological insulin resistance on carnivore and on fasting, because the body can make sugar out of itself. You don't have to eat carbs to make your blood sugar or diabetic numbers high. And no one talks about this stuff because so many people say, we have success. But success is not weight loss. Success is health. Success is hormones balanced and sleep and the body being anabolic and not being a chronic catabolic state of gluconeogenesis, going down the stress pathway. Be very careful. How to combat that is go to bed early, eat every 3 hours. Not in the beginning, not all the time, not infinity, but for the most of your day, you should have main meals and then graze a little bit in between to keep your blood sugar stable, ketotic or not. And another benefit of not being in a constant gluconeogenic state is feeling healthy, keeping that collagen nice and healthy. I'm 56. I will be on my way to 57. And what you want to do is keep your body from burning collagen, because it'll burn collagen. That skin under the neck, that little flub down here, the arms, it will start munching from all those places. Bone marrow, my people, right? Women who are postmenopausal, and then their calcium, they're having osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, all these inflammatory bone diseases. You have to be careful not to fast and not to do a ketogenic or carnivore diet the wrong way. If you're not in ketosis, gluconeogenesis. If your protein's too high on carnivore or not enough fat, gluconeogenesis. It's really, really important that you guys learn how to balance your macros, how to eat accordingly to your lifestyle. If you're a third shift night worker, if you're exercising a lot, if you're not exercising at all, if you have any inflammatory disease, if you have a thyroid problem, if you have hypoglycemia, if you're insulin resistant, don't become more insulin resistant trying to do carnivore and keto and fasting the wrong way. Go to bed early. Make sure you eat enough fat. Don't eat enough protein. Make sure you're not going into histamine responses, because that will spike your blood sugar as well. Gluconeogenesis. Body thinks it's running from a line, even if you're eating a food group that is giving you a histamine response. We got to be smart. If you guys want to learn more, go to stephanieperson.com. Sign up for a consultation or sign up for my monthly course group where I go over 3 diets, because not one diet fits all. My Instagram is Stephanie Ketogenic. My Facebook is Stephanie the Business Person. And get ready for challenge signups coming soon. Energy at 56. I keep wanting to say 55, but we keep getting older. 56 going on 57. Peace.